Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, right as you were entering that show, I thought, we should have done a Old Town Road parody this week. Take me down the Youngstown Road. But, I need more than 3 seconds to get a song parody together. So I guess we'll have to wait till the next time they play Youngstown State. But just know, all week I'm going to have Take Me Down the Youngstown Road in my head. And it's a banger, Tony. Certified banger.
You are no Weird Al, sir. And that's unfortunate for all of us. But so help me if I have that song stuck in my head and then I sing it as a certain Minnesotan we know, then it's going to be even worse.
Your Kirby Puckett impression is fantastic, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
So thank you, Tom. That is the first time I've ever heard that. We are talking about the Youngstown State game, or as I like to call it, spring game in September.
Mm-hmm.
The Buckeyes are 41.5-point favorites. That came out on Thursday. I feel like if you're going to take the over on 41.5, this would be the week to do it, because you've got an Ohio State offense that is a little bit angry and an Ohio State defense that is also a little bit angry for whatever reason. And so I would normally never say lay 41.5 points, especially when Youngstown State has been able to stay near Ohio State when those two teams have played back in 2007, 2008 with very similar offenses to the ones the Buckeyes run today under Ryan Day. But no, I think 42 points is not safe, but I like it.
Yeah, it feels like if Ohio State really kind of keeps the pedal down for a decent chunk of the game and tries to get the younger guys on the team who, when they get in, like get them legitimate reps and not just like, oh, hey, look, you get to hand the football to a walk-on running back. Like, good for you. Like, they've done that in the past, and I think we've argued at times that probably is not the best use of the relatively valuable resource that is in-game reps that you could be getting young players. So we'll see. I think there's also kind of an inherent tendency to not want to run it up on your in-state opponents, although Oregon last week played Portland State and didn't go great for Portland State. I think it ended up 81-7 or something like that. I'm not expecting something like that here, but Ohio State has some stuff to work out, and they want to get both quarterbacks sort of an extended run, and then you want to get the young guys in because you can get these guys 4 games, and this is going to be one of those 4 games. So I think 42, 41.5. I think that's a realistic number. And when we get to our predictions, I will pick Ohio State to win by more than that. I don't know if I believe it enough that I would put money on it, but it's, I think it's certainly a real possibility.
Yeah. I like everything about Ohio State's chances here. When you combine Youngstown State's lack of a passing game with their reliance on the running game, that would seem to fit in well with what Ohio State is going to be able to do. Granted, the Buckeyes are probably going to be tired of not being able to see a passing game, but don't worry. They'll get what they want next week against Western Kentucky and all of that. So Youngstown State comes in at 1-0, 52-10 win over Valpo. Last week, they rushed for 302 yards, 41 attempts, 7.4 yards per carry, threw it 26 times, completed 16 passes for 169 yards. They held Valparaiso to 40 yards rushing on 26 attempts. And so they did what they should have done against a lesser opponent. And so now they come into Ohio Stadium facing a much higher level of opponent in the Buckeyes in a semi-hostile environment. And I'm expecting this to be, like I said, I'm expecting a shutout, which you should never do. And especially, I don't expect Ohio State to give up 302 yards rushing. I think they should probably give up double digits. Don't even go into the 100s. I'm interested to see how good Youngstown State is completely. But looking at the previous 2 matchups in 2007, 2008, do you remember Ohio State kicking 5 field goals in that 2008 game?
Was that the one that ended up like 20-2, or was that that was the 2007 game, right?
2007 was 38-6. 2008 was 43-0. The 20-2 was like an Ohio or Akron or
was that Akron?
Something
okay.
like that. But So in that 2008 game, 5 field goals. They were 1 for 5 on red zone touchdowns. So just throwing back some history, but I expect them to be much better from the red zone as this week, which has been a focal point.
Yeah, and they should control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I mean, the Youngstown State rushing for 7.4 yards per carry against Valparaiso. Valparaiso, obviously not a completely apples to apples comparison to the Ohio State defense, but if you're running for 7.4 yards per carry and your running backs in order have 10.1 yards per carry, 11.8 yards per carry, 8.1 yards per carry, 8.3 yards per carry, you're moving the ball. They're hitting some big plays. I think to me, for Ohio State, you want to see them holding Youngstown State under maybe 3.5 yards a carry. That would be it probably means you didn't give up any big plays and you're controlling the line of scrimmage, which you should against even a good FCS offensive line. I think that's kind of the benchmark I'm looking at. And then do they give up any plays over 25 or 30 yards? If you don't get popped for a big one, at least in the first 3 quarters, if you've got the freshman in the fourth quarter and something happens, okay, something happens. But while you've got the starters or even you're too deep in there, you should be holding Youngstown State, at least under 4 yards a carry and no 30-yard plays, say, something like that on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side of the ball, Youngstown State held Valparaiso to 1.5 yards a carry. You should be able to run the ball for 6 yards a carry, 7 yards a carry against Youngstown State.
Yeah, and certainly staying efficient, running the ball and staying ahead of the chains, that sort of thing, just staying on time. So let's spend some time with this Ohio State offense. I'm wondering, is it more important for Ohio State to establish the passing game or the running game in this one? Because it doesn't feel like if you run for 350 yards, you should. We know there are some communication issues this past week. That was on everybody, whether it was Carson Hinsman making a bad call or just the lack of communication from inside out, outside in, that sort of thing. That's all stuff that can be fixed. And so I would think that you could know whether that was fixed without running the ball 40 times in this game in the first 3 quarters. So I think for me, what I would like to see is a more focused passing attack. That's why I think this is another reason why I'm considering it a spring game. When we watch the spring game, it's pass heavy. And then in the fourth quarter or the second half, whatever, everybody's trying to just deal with traffic at that point. But I think it's more important to establish the passing game, get the timing down, just get some confidence going with Kyle McCord, and obviously let Devin Brown throw the ball around and just get both of those guys, give them the freedom to be the guy and to use their weapons to distribute the ball and see what you can see. Get Devin Brown on film, let him grow from that. So I'm expecting them to throw the ball around. They don't need to run it, like I said, a bunch of times to know that they can run it. If there's crisp, the communication is there, fine. Just continue throwing the ball.
Yeah, I want to see them run the ball a little bit because I want to see the consistency. I want to see them staying on schedule, which is get at least 4 yards on first down and get at least half of what you need on second down and then pick it up on third down. You've got to be able to stay on schedule against this team. And you don't need to run it 1,000 times, but you need to show that you can run it. And this is a week when, sometimes you'll hear about, like Nick Saban, for example. Nick Saban, when Alabama's playing Mercer or the Citadel, they almost never seem to cover. And it's almost always halftime and it's 17-3 and everyone's going, what's wrong with Alabama? And what's wrong with Alabama is they're working on all the stuff that they're not good at. So they're working on all the stuff that, hey, we really struggled in short yardage last week. So we're going to, yes, we know we could pick it up with a pass on 3rd and 2, but we're going to run it because we want to run it. We want to see that we can do it. And we want to work on this in a game setting against a team that you should be able to push around on the line of scrimmage. But I think you're going to see some of that from Ohio State, where they're going to be working on some stuff with the run game because they definitely have some stuff to work on there. But I do agree. And I think Ryan Day wants to see these two quarterbacks in a game situation, in a sort of apples to apples situation where, maybe Kyle McCord gets the first quarter and Devin Brown gets the second quarter. And then you just kind of see, okay, they each had 2 drives or 3 drives or whatever it is. And this guy had 2 touchdowns and this guy had a field goal and a punt. And okay, now we know this. And you just want to see it. And you want to see them make some different throws. You want to see them working in different situations. You want to do basically what they do during practice where it's okay, now you're backed up to your goal line and you got to come out from your own end. Okay, now you're in the red zone. How are you in the red zone? How are you in a 2-minute drill? Maybe they run some hurry up just to run some hurry up to have the guys, to see how the guys run the hurry up. I think you're just going to be seeing them putting guys in a bunch of different positions. And some of that is running, yes, but I'm with you. I think there's a lot more stuff I want to see because there's the two quarterbacks. There's a lot more stuff I want to see in the passing game on Saturday.
Yeah, one of the things I wrote down here is you show absolutely nothing offensively or defensively, and that this will be some basic situational stuff that they might want to fix and just work on and see on film, that sort of thing. I do have some, I'm going to give you a couple of over-unders, Tom. 165.5 passing yards for Kyle McCord.
I'm going to say over because I think they're going to be working on the pass.
115.5 for Devin Brown passing yards.
Well, on our bold prediction show yesterday, I picked Devin Brown to have 125 something, so I guess I'm going to have to go over there as well.
And then 0.5 passing yards for Lincoln Keenholz. Are you going to stick with your bold predictions?
Yes, I have to. I've got to stick with my bold prediction there. I had Lincoln Keenholz throwing a touchdown for only 1 point. I am history's greatest hero. I agree. Yes.
Do not carry that. Do not carry that show's attitude into this show. Nobody wants to hear it.
Anyway, so speaking of history's greatest hero, we got to talk about. No, I'm kidding. I think you see Lincoln Keenholz throw the ball because they like him a lot. He's only been on campus since the summer, so they have not really seen a whole heck of a lot of him. He wasn't here for the spring. So you just want film on him. You want him to have the opportunity to play, see it, experience it a little bit. And that's, step one towards we'll play this out. If Kyle McCord wins a job this year and holds the job the whole season and has the typical Ryan Day quarterback season and he goes pro, next year's quarterback battle is Devin Brown versus Lincoln Keenholz. So, you want Lincoln Keenholz to have as many meaningful game reps as you can this year to potentially get him ready for that next year. You gotta put him in. You gotta let him throw. He should play his full 4 games. This is going to be one of them. I think you gotta put him in and let him throw the ball a little bit.
It was interesting to hear Ryan Day say he is going to redshirt, but they still have those 4 games that they can put him in. He's going to be the 4th quarterback going into this game, or going into the game. He's the 4th quarterback. He may not be the 4th quarterback going into the game. He might be the 3rd one getting inserted into the game. But because obviously they like Tristan Gebbia and you want to reward him, but you also need to think about the future as well. And if you're not going to do it in this game, then this is one of the reasons you're paying Youngstown State to come to the game. But generally, you don't have a quarterback battle that's going on where you've got to get everybody a certain number of reps and you want to see what they can do. Whoever's in there, I want to see him go downfield, attack downfield, use your outside guys, use your inside guys. The steam is going to be there as well, as we saw with Cade Stover. So just be attacking. If Kyle McCord is only thrown like 12 passes, but he's 10 of 12 for 240 yards, which is something that could happen, where it's just you're very efficient and you're on the field and then off the field because of quick touchdown drives. And Devin Brown is out there throwing 22 passes and it's taking longer, but he's getting good looks. He's making the right reads. I think that would be a win for both guys. Get as much out there get as much of a look as you can with those guys. And then 4th quarter, I still think you want Devin Brown out there in the 4th quarter as well. And, we don't know what the score is going to be. We're going to assume it's going to be in the 40s to the single digits. There's no danger of Ohio State losing at that point. So you can do whatever you want in the 4th quarter. I still think is it Devin Brown until you feel like there's 2 drives left, which is probably the second possession of the 4th quarter, where then, okay, now it's Tristan Gebbia, and then it's 1 drive of him and then 1 drive of Lincoln Keenholz.
Yeah, that feels about right, where you give Devin Brown, you go with McCord and Brown through, end of the 3rd quarter, maybe a drive into the 4th quarter, 10 minutes left in the game, something like that. And then, can the defense get off the field? We have seen times when you're expecting, oh boy, the young guy is going to go in and the defense can't get off the field and you don't get to see the young guy. That can happen from time to time. I wonder if it's going to be I'm going to guess it's going to be snap based for them in terms of how they're tracking, who's playing enough, or, snap based or drive based, one or the other. If you're hitting big plays, you're going to get more possessions, you're going to get more opportunities. So they should hit some, enough big plays that it's not going to be a 4 possession first half like it was for the UCLA and Coastal Carolina game, where it was like each team had, I think, 4 possessions in the first half, and it was like, this is kind of gross. You want to get more than 2 possessions a quarter. So yeah, if they're up in the, they had 10 last week. You would think you get off the field kind of hopefully relatively quickly when Youngstown State's out there. You move the ball, you push the ball downfield a little bit more with some big plays. You get up to 12 possessions, something like that. McCord and Brown each get maybe 5, and then you get 1 for Gebbia and 1 for Keenholz.
But you can also have short possessions with a 3 and out, which Ohio State also had, and still ended up with those 10 possessions. One thing Ryan Day did say on his radio show is that he is seriously thinking about taking the ball on coin tosses now rather than deferring, to make sure they get that more than the 4 possessions or whatever in the first half. They're thinking about it. He obviously still values the middle portion of the game, the last 4 to 6 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 to 6 of the third quarter. I have always been a defer, and you never want to give up back-to-back possessions by taking the ball to start the game and then having the opponent with the last possession of the first half and the first possession of the second half. But if you're losing a possession based on the clock rules right now, you almost have to, I'm going to take the bird in the hand of the first drive, the first possession. That way I know I'm going to have a certain number. I'm not there to the point where I would defer the deferring.
Right. I don't think you've got enough data right now to make any kind of firm decision on that. And, if you defer and in the second half you get the ball first, well, you're going to get the extra possession in the second half. So you might be kind of splitting hairs. And I think the middle 8, which is what they call the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, you'll hear coaches talk about the middle 8 all the time because, the game can be 10-10 and you get the ball with 4 minutes left, you go down and score, and you get the ball back and you go down the field and score. And all of a sudden a game that was 10-10, 8 minutes ago in game time is all of a sudden 24-10 without the opposing team getting a chance to snap it, or snap it more than once at the end of the first half or something like that. That's where you can really change the momentum of a game. That, I think, I would have to really have some pretty significant data about the importance, how different the distribution of drives are in the first halves of games to, really make me rethink that strategy.
Although if I were to make a change, it would be for this game to get as many possessions in terms of for the first team offense. If you're not expecting guys to play past the first half and you want them to get a bunch of work, then maybe take the ball. But even then, it's not overly necessary because, how much work are you looking for these guys to get?
What's interesting is, typically you would think last couple of years, CJ Stroud plays the first half and he plays maybe 1 drive in the second half, and then the whole first team offense comes off, and then the second team, the backup quarterback, and then the second team offense comes on at that point. I'm wondering if you keep the first team offensive line out there for the whole first 3 quarters when you've got McCord and Brown, and you keep, maybe Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka aren't playing in that third quarter, but you've got Carnell Tate and Xavier Johnson out there for the third quarter, where it's, the one, not necessarily the ones at wide receiver, but sort of the 1As at wide receiver. And you've got your, you don't have Travion Henderson out there, but you've got Mayan Williams or Chip Trainum or Dallin Hayden probably getting a bunch of carries in this game. I think you're probably keeping the first team offensive line out there longer because you have, however you want to delineate the quarterbacks, 1 and 1A or 1A and 1B. You've got those guys out there. I think you want to keep that first team offensive line out there for quite a while to make sure those guys, first of all, that line needs the reps. And second of all, you want to protect both of those guys, McCord and Brown. You don't want someone getting hurt in this game.
No, I'm with you. Keep them out there for those 3 quarters. And, will they maybe piecemeal it and there's 4 guys out there and Enoch Vamahi comes in or something like that. And you kind of peel them away one by one, like a when you're substituting basketball players at the end of the game and you want them to get an ovation or whatever. Not exactly like that, but that's how you pull a starting five after they've had a great performance. And if you can't recognize them after a great performance against Youngstown State, when are you going to do it? So defensively, Tom, I'm asking myself, what is a good performance against Youngstown State? And I'd say keeping them out of the end zone. Anytime you keep somebody out of the end zone, whoever it is, that's a good performance. You give up a field goal, give up 2 field goals, whatever. Sometimes a play is just going to break down. Something's going to happen. It could be an Ohio State turnover that leaves Youngstown State in scoring position. It could be any kind of turnover like that, or it's just one fluke play gets them into the red zone. So I don't get hung up on field goals, and shutouts are really, really difficult. But I think the goal here is to keep them out of the end zone. I think it's an attainable goal, especially in the first 3 quarters. If they score against the Freshmen in the fourth quarter, that's expected to happen. We have seen that. How many years have we been watching this Ohio State football? You see it all the time in terms of, it was the third team. It was the freshman giving up the touchdown and ruining the shutout. And so that if that happens, that's not going to be a surprise. But keeping them out of the end zone while the starters and while the rotation is in there, I think is a good start.
My favorite one of those stories is, I think it was 1997. Ohio State's playing Illinois, and it's in the horseshoe, and it's snowing like crazy at one point. And this is one of these just atrocious Illinois teams, like the really, really bad Illinois teams between like the Simeon Rice Illinois teams and the Kurt Kittner Illinois teams. And it was, I think, 41-0 Ohio State, and there's like 10 seconds left of the game, and they put some walk-on quarterback in there, and he fumbles the ball, and Illinois gets a scoop and score, and Ohio State ends up winning 41-6 or 41-7 instead of 41-0, and the line on the game was 38, and TLDR, never bet. But yeah, you'll see those at the end of the game, and Steele Chambers talked this week about the fact that Ohio State was like, the defense was angry that they gave up a field goal to Indiana because they want a shutout, and they want a shutout this week. If the starting defense comes off the field in the middle of the third quarter and Youngstown State has a shutout or has 0 points, I think that's what you're really looking for. And you can have the fumble, you can have the muffed punt or whatever where they pick the ball up, and Youngstown State starts with the ball on the Ohio State 18-yard line and then goes 3 and out but kicks a field goal, and that's like, okay, that's not really on the defense. Like you could have something like that. Any of that is a win. You don't want to see Youngstown State with a 8-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. If they're picking up a bunch of third downs or driving methodically down the field, that would be a little bit more of a concern to me than just, hey, a cornerback fell down and a guy got deep, or they scored against the third team that's all the true freshmen who we haven't seen on the field yet.
You also sometimes see that first drive where the offense goes right down the field against the Ohio State defense, and you're like, what in the world? And you're like, this is horrible. How can this defense be that bad? And it's the only drive they really give up that day. And you make the adjustments, and the whole scripting the play and practicing that script for however many weeks to prepare, but keep them out of the end zone while the guys that play are still playing, and then have those players on the sideline, the veterans, encouraging and coaching up the young guys when they're out there to help keep that shutout going. I'll be interested, Tom, if we see Jihad Carter for the first time in this game. We did not see him. I don't believe he played there at the end, and which makes me think that he's probably still not healthy, although when Jim Knowles was asked about it, like, he didn't allude to any kind of injury, which he has in the past with Jihad Carter. We know he was banged up in the spring, banged up a little bit in fall camp. And so I wonder if we will see him out there. We noticed last week, Amari Abor, defensive end, redshirt freshman defensive end, wasn't on the injury list, also wasn't on the travel roster. Brian Day told us a while back that he was a long-term injury. Spoke with an OSU spokesman this weekend, and he said he's like recovering. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Maybe we see him, maybe we don't. We really haven't seen much of him around of late, so I'm not sure what's going on with his return. But I think the one guy that we will see, that we really have only seen a snippet of on defense is CJ Hicks. This is the time to get out there and see him. Last week, I know people wanted to see him in a relatively close game on the road in the Big Ten against a surprise triple option offense. You want your veterans out there. You're not going to put a redshirt freshman who has never played defense for you before on the field. Like, I understand them not wanting to do that. It's a little bit, obviously it's tricky. Now they like what CJ Hicks, you just tell him what to do and he'll go do it. I almost wonder if that would have been perfect for the option. Like, just go take the pitch, man, or go take the quarterback, whatever. But we will see him this week. We'll get an opportunity to see him get into the backfield, go see him make plays around, like in the spring game, getting his hands on balls and coverage. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do when he's given a half of football.
Yeah, this is the week when you sort of find out where things really are. You can ask about guys, oh yeah, he's really making progress. And then if you don't see him until he's playing with the second batch of walk-ons, progress is sort of a relative term. CJ Hicks is someone I think you're going to see relatively early in the process of going through the depth chart. And, he's someone, every time we talk about CJ Hicks or Sonny Styles, or have for the last 9 months, everyone in the comments wants to know why they're not playing more. Well, now you get to see him play. We'll see how it looks and see, how assignment sound are they? CJ Hicks, one of CJ Hicks's issues is, hey, he's got some real good linebackers ahead of him. Tommy Eichenberg, pretty good. Steele Chambers, pretty good. Cody Simon, also pretty good. Like, there is, it's not like he's being held off the field by the linebackers of the 2020, what year was that? 2021 class, I think. The year that everyone didn't pan out all at once. Like, that's not the year. That's not the linebackers you're sitting behind here. So I think, so we'll get a good sense for what that looks like. While you were talking, I checked. Jihad Carter did not appear in the game last week, according to the official participation report. Amari Abor still listed on the roster, still listed in the Ohio State directory. So, no reason to think that that's anything other right now than what it's being presented as. But, we'll keep an eye on that one. This is going to be an interesting week because you're going to see probably everyone. This is the week when you get to see, I always try and get pictures of all the guys on the kickoff coverage in the fourth quarter as they're all blazing down the field. Cause I'm like, this might be the only guy, this might be the only time you see this guy on the field and you want to have a picture of this guy just in case. And so, yeah, this is empty the bench day is how this typically works. And, I feel like every time we talk about it like this, then somehow the game ends up 28-17 and you don't get to see all the other guys. But, if things go according to plan, you should see, this will be a good week to find out who's healthy, because if you're healthy, you should probably be playing this week.
No, that's a great point. Jelani Thurman, in terms of the freshmen who have yet to play, I saw Jelani Thurman was listed as having played last week. So I don't know if that was at the end or if that was on special teams. We know Arvell Reese played on special teams. Ryan Day singled him out as well. But in terms of the freshmen who have yet to play, you've got Lincoln Keenholz, Bryson Rogers, receiver, the offensive lineman, Austin Sierravell, Joshua Padilla, and Miles Walker. The defensive tackles, Caden McDonald, Jason Moore, and Will Smith. Not sure about Will Smith's availability at this point. We know he was injured previously. Cornerback, Calvin Simpson-Hunt. Safeties, Cedric Hawkins and Jaden Bonsu. Bonsu was listed on the availability report as being out last week, so who knows where he is now. And then, of course, linebacker, Northwestern transfer, Nigel Glover. I think at some point we can leave the Northwestern part out, and because he's a true freshman. So that was just a little blip on the transfer there. Nigel Glover has yet to play. It might take him a little bit longer, just because of his situation coming in here this summer. But so those are the guys. In terms of a pick to click, Tom, of any of those freshmen, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm feeling Caden McDonald or Arvell Reese in terms of just making an impact play out of the blue. And that's one of those things where it's the first time people have seen him, like, who aren't paying attention to all of the names on the roster, and they're going to be like, oh, who's 20? Who's 56? I think one of those two guys makes a play.
Yeah, those are good picks. I think I could see like a Jermaine Matthews or Calvin Simpson-Hunt get your hand on a football and tip something up in the air and intercept it towards the end of the game. I'm interested to see Luke Montgomery. I think we probably get an extended run of Luke Montgomery, at least a quarter or so at tackle. We've seen him, in that Bison package as sort of that extra tight end. And you'll obviously see that again on Saturday. But see him actually at that right tackle spot. Like, let's see what that looks like, because he's a true freshman. It is completely unfair and absolutely outrageous to even think about, having this guy be your starting tackle at this point. But I just kind of want to see it, because we've saw it a little bit during the spring, but that's, you've come a long way. You're that's more than half of your career ago as an Ohio State player, the spring game. So I'm just sort of interested in a little bit of a status check on him and where he is, because we've heard them talk about him so much that, he's I just want to see it. Jelani Thurman, though, I mean, like, of all the people, I realize I'm naming like half of the people on the half of the freshmen, but man, Jelani Thurman, kind of excited. I kind of want to see, because he's someone who just, the athleticism, the size, it's just like that could be a thing sooner than you might expect. Again, not saying in the next 2 weeks or anything like that, but he's someone who by the end of the year, you might have some kind of a role for him, which as a true freshman is, think about the true freshmen who have had some kind of a role. If that happens, that's a real good barometer of, where things could be headed for him.
Yeah, and also another chance to see the true freshman receivers who played a little bit last week. Carnell Tate played, Brandon Ennis and Noah Rogers played at the end. Tom, real quick, before we get out of here, you mentioned Luke Montgomery, and I just quickly flashed back and dreaded the thought of your final 3-point bonus. Your bold prediction was 3 tight ends score touchdowns in this game. And the fact that I didn't say Luke Montgomery can't be one of those during the Thursday show, I'm now convinced that is how you are going to win this week, with Luke Montgomery catching a play action out of that. And nobody could possibly be angry about something like that happening, but I can.
It feels like Ohio State has not done the tackle eligible, like, big man touchdown thing nearly enough over the years. I can't remember the last time they did. Do you remember one?
No.
I mean, I remember, Jerron Cage with a scoop and score, or Haskell Garrett with a, tip and an interception in the end zone, but I can't remember a big man touchdown on offense. And I feel like we're due, Tony. Really feels like we're maybe even a little overdue.
Anyway, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to the Youngstown State game. It should be fun for a lot of different reasons.
You should give your score prediction.
My score prediction, Tom, is I'm going with a shutout, 52-0, Ohio State. Where are you?
I initially had 52-0, and then I thought you should never predict a shutout. So then I gave Youngstown State 3 points, and I thought, well, they won't score touchdowns on all their drives. I'm going to take one of the touchdowns away and make it an extra field goal. So I ended up at 48-3, Ohio State.
I just think that's really disappointing on your part to put 2 field goals in there, unless one of them is with 1 second left at the half. Like, okay, we can understand that. And then the second one is just throughout the course of the third or fourth quarter. Don't write the letters to Tom about that one. There are some reasonable excuses for why he would say 48 points. So that will do it for this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. As always, please check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member there. That is a great way to support us and support this show. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.